Welcome to the Dynamics of Everyday Life, where we demystify some tricky concepts and get to know ourselves a little bit better. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm actually playing around with the opening of the show at the moment. I've been doing so many marketing, branding, you name it, masterclasses, webinars, conferences, etc. And apparently it's important to be consistent. And it's also important to keep it fresh. I mean, to me, it's starting to feel a bit damned if you do, damned if you don't. But there you go. It's the done thing to follow the gurus, so that's what I'm going to do. And this leads me on to this week's topic. So this week I've been away at a conference. It's quite a well-known one, and I signed up to go a year ago. To be honest, I'd never heard of it before last year, but last summer it was quite clearly the place to be. And obviously that's when the FOMO crept in. The tickets came out with the offers. I thought I could tie it in with a trip to my parents, winner, winner, chicken dinner, which instantly I did have. Thanks, Mum. And then I thought no more about it. Until I came to booking my trains and planning my diary around it. And that's when I realised it was during my daughter's A-levels. Oops. And the week before she leaves to go to the US for 3 months. She's doing 2 months at Camp America and a month travelling. Cue the shoddy parent feeling. It was also a long way for me to travel, which is fine, but then it takes a long time out of my business and it has an impact on how I feel when I get home. You know, I'm not 21 anymore, so it's got to be worth it. For me, there really needs to be a reasonable return on my investment. Now, a bit of a caveat here. I didn't do a lot of the networking beforehand, and I realised that this can go a long way into how you experience these events. But I'm also building my business. There's only one of me, and whilst I have incredible support from my VA and my brother doing the website, there are also things that only I can do. So I need to pick how I allocate my time, although now I'm starting to think about this could actually be a bit of rationalisation creeping in here. Maybe. I'll have a think about that. So how am I feeling as I get to the event? Honestly, I probably wasn't in the best place. I'd already been up for over 3 hours and I'd been on 2 trains at that point. There was also a distinct lack of signing, so I went in the wrong direction a couple of times. This is one of my bugbears. Stick a sign up. How hard can it be? I don't like not knowing where I'm going, so this was never going to help. It also didn't help that when I finally got into the event, I got my information, all my goodie bags and everything, I couldn't actually find the entrance to the main hall. I nearly went into the lift and the men's toilets a couple of times, but that is a whole different episode. Anyway, I get in, I find a seat, and I'm prepared to be blown away by the content, because after all, that's what I'm there for. I need to learn from the experts that have been promised to me. I am not a marketer. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm looking to people to teach me. The energy is high, the people leading it are doing their opening keynote speech, and then a celebrity comes on to be interviewed. And I'm left feeling a bit confused. It does nothing for me. I find myself starting to take notes about the question stacking. So as a coach, I'm very well trained in the art of not question stacking. It used to be a terrible habit of mine, but after many years, I can now say that I don't do it 99% of the time, and the other 1% I tend to catch myself with. It's incredibly distracting. Ask one question and let the person answer it. At this point, I'm starting to wonder whether the ridiculously early start and the guilt I'm carrying about missing time with my daughter in her final exams and before she goes away is actually worth it. Anyway, the next speaker comes on and she's great. I'm getting value here, so I start to feel a bit better. I'm taking notes and I'm drawing parallels with my business. However, as the day goes on, I realise that this feeling of the Emperor's new clothes hasn't really left me. Some speakers are good and I do learn from them. Others aren't so good and they just love the sound of their own voice talking about how wonderful they are and what they've achieved. The food is not great. Not that I actually managed to try any break time snacks, as they were hoovered up like a plague of locusts had been at them. Lunch was minimal at best, although it was served in individual bags, which I loved, as I had been a bit worried about the idea of a buffet. Now, if you know me well, you'll know that this is my absolute idea of hell. If I have to have a buffet meal, I will fight my way to the front so I can get the food that hasn't been touched by other people's grubby hands. So as the day goes on, I'm starting to get a bit grouchy as I'm hungry. I'm less likely to be forgiving, and for the last session of the day, I consciously don't want to sit in the main body of the hall. I take myself up to the balcony so that I can be slightly apart from the crowd. The crowd that are loving this. They were signing up to next year and waving their arms in the air like they just didn't care. But not me. I was thinking about, could I get to the station in enough time to make sure I could get some snacks? Now, fortunately, I did, although maybe not quite so fortunately for the person sat opposite me, as I turned into a version of Cookie Monster as soon as I sat down. Now I'm home, I've eaten properly, I've had enough sleep, so I can start to reflect on this and to think about what was actually going on for me. There was an unspoken pressure to feel as if I was part of the gang and I should be swept along in thinking that this was the next big thing. But I didn't. What I was actually thinking was, where's everyone's critical lens? I remember walking past some people as we left a talk that had been okay, but realistically had relied on a bit of motivational fluff, and they were saying how incredible this speaker had been. I almost stopped in my tracks at this point as I was thinking, were we even in the same room? Well, if we were, I don't think we were hearing the same talk, at any rate. And it's made me think about group dynamics. For long-time listeners, you might remember we've talked about group dynamics before in the episode, Why Do I Still Feel Like I'm Being Picked Last for PE? There can be a feeling in groups that we all should be on board with what the group is doing and that they move with a collective mind. Freud writes about groups. For those of you who like a reference, it's in Group Psychology and Analysis of the Ego. And he talks about them having a variety of different aspects. And one that stands out for me here is that we'll often have less access to our full intellectual capabilities when we're in a group. We're swayed by the decisions of the leader and what's happening in the group. There's every possibility that we might be interjecting. So what this means is we're taking in other people's thoughts, their excitement and their beliefs without actually filtering it for ourselves. We might also be complying. We're shaped by our early experiences of needing to do what the rest of the group is doing to get along and to feel part of something. And this has actually helped me understand a key part of the marketing at the end of the day. We were offered a huge discount on signing up to next year. We had to do it by midnight, though, to get this big discount. And the speakers were asking who in the room had already signed up. There were several whoops of delight. And honestly, at this point, I was feeling a tug of, well, maybe I should. I could feel the FOMO creeping in, and I was wondering if I was letting the side down by not signing up. Fortunately, my stomach won out, and the need to eat properly stopped me snapping the QR code for my super early bird discount as I raced to the station shops. Once I got on the train and my blood sugar level was back on an even keel, I could think about it a bit more objectively and realise I don't want to do it again. For me, I didn't experience what other people got from the event, and that's okay. I don't need to be part of every group. And if it's a group that doesn't work for me, then I don't need to try and fit into it. I've tried it. I'm glad I've tried it, because now I know next year what everyone will be talking about. And the FOMO, with any luck, shouldn't be there so much. My invitation for you this week is for you to consider where in your life you might be going along with something just because everyone else thinks it's a great idea. Do you actually want to do what everyone else is suggesting, or is it really not your thing? When we tune into what's going on for us, I'm really not sure about whether I like this or not, we can learn more about ourselves instead of just accepting whatever is happening without thinking about it. And, as always, give yourself some grace. It can be difficult to recognise that we've been making decisions based on what other people think or choose, without actually considering what we want. Looking at ourselves at this level can be challenging and unnerving as we develop our awareness, so I'd always encourage that you do this at your own speed. If you feel you need some extra help around this, then I've put together a PDF resource sheet, and you can find the link for this in the show notes. If you'd like to have a chat with me about psychodynamics, or whether I'm the right trainer, coach, supervisor or mentor for you, then click on the link that's also in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dynamics of Everyday Life. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. As well as producing this podcast, The Dynamics of Everyday Life has lots more psychodynamic fun going on, and you can find out more at dynamicsofeveryday.life.